Shalom Aleichem. Very good. You remembered to turn it around and respond the other way. That works not only in Hebrew, it works in Arabic, and it works in any of the languages where you have Muslims that are giving a greeting, however they may pronounce it. In Bangladesh, it's Assalamu alaikum, and you respond by Walaikum assalam. You just turn it around. It's the same phrase, same phraseology, and the response is always reversed. So just keep that in mind. And if I should ask you, Ma shlomkem, what is your response then? Good. Some of you are tov. Are the rest of you lo ra or just ra? And when I greet you with boker tov, what am I saying? Good morning. Right. So you want to greet me with good morning this morning? Good. Thank you very much. All right. We want to go back to the alphabet again. The alphabet is where we're going to spend 4 hours of time just learning these 22 letters. We spent about an hour or so, perhaps hour and a half in the last session on Tuesday. We want to spend 2 hours on it today as well. We want to go over these letters. We want to repeat them. We want to sing the alphabet song. I trust that you went online and began to listen to that, and maybe even some of you taught it to your children, had them help you sing it. And I sang it all the way in the car this morning, and in preparation. And it's one of those things that gets into your mind after a while, and it sticks. It's hard to get it out. But having the sounds, knowing the names, is only half of it, because there also has to be the visual recognition of the letters. And so we want to work on that. So as we talk about the Hebrew alphabet consonants, the first letter is what? Aleph. And what kind of sound does it have? It's silent. It has no sound of its own. It is one of 2 silent letters in the Hebrew alphabet. The second letter is Beit. And what sound does it have? B. Just the same sound it has at the beginning. All right. Next. Good. Remember to put that guttural in there, chayf. All right? And the next one? Okay, now let's take those 10, which is almost half, and let's read them through again several times. All right? Let's do it together in unison. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Chayf, Tet, Yod. Okay, one more time. Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Waw, Zayin, Chayf, Tet, Yod. And remember that the Waw can also be called Vav. Okay, put a V on each end of it. That's modern Hebrew pronunciation. That's not classical Hebrew pronunciation. There's many reasons we can give for that. But you need to know the Vav, because there are so many teaching Hebrew today that use modern Hebrew pronunciation or names. And in some of the books, you'll see them written that way as well. So it's good to know the alternatives as you look at them. Okay, let's go to the next 12 of them. All right, the next letter is Kaf. Okay, Sin is the one on the right there. Sin, and then Sheen. Tau, which is alternatively pronounced Tav. All right, T-A-V is the alternate pronunciation. Now, which of these last 12 letters is silent like the Aleph? Ayin. Ayin is silent. This gives us a total of 22 letters. And that's counting the Sin and Sheen together as one letter form. In ancient Hebrew, there were probably not any dots above the horns of the Sheen. Those are added, as far as we know and can determine, only by the Masoretes, starting at the earliest around 500 AD and working up through about 1200 AD in making certain that the Hebrew language could be easily retained, preserved, and remembered, even by those who no longer had the memory of memorizing and reciting the classical Hebrew over and over again. That's the reason the Masoretes added vowel pointings. We'll talk about that starting next Tuesday when we get into the vowels that help us to give the sounds to these words. Let's go over the alphabet song. Remember, it went something like this. Aleph, Beth, and Gimel, Daleth, Hey, and Wow, and Zayin, right? Right at the beginning, and I've got the wrong melody, I can tell you right now. Who is a music leader in here? Who's a musician? Anyone a musician in here? None? Someone's pointing there, right? Let me ask this question, because this is frightening me now, you see. If we have no one in music, how many of you have a background in engineering or mathematics? Wow, at least we've got 4 of you. Okay. You see, the reason I ask that is those who study languages, who do well in languages, those who have the easiest time in learning languages, are those with math skills and with music skills. All right? Music and math, the 2 M's. So if you have no musical skills and you have no math skills, bad news. You'll just have to work harder. All right, you'll have to be like me. You'll have to just keep pressing on, and it doesn't come by inspiration, it comes by perspiration. All right? But that's what we've got to do. Okay, now let me think through this again. I sang this so much on the way in today, and I guess I could hook it up on the internet here and pick it up too. In fact, why don't we do that and save us a little bit of time? All right, now we'll get it. I'm so glad we have these crutches we can use. I used to have to bring a big tape recorder in to play songs to help us get the melodies correctly. All right.
Aleph, Bet, and Gimel, Dalet, Hey, and Vav, and Zayin. Tet, and Tet, and Yod, and Kaf, and Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, and Tzaddik, Kuf, and Resh, and Sin, and Shin, and Tav, Havenu, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem.
Aleph, Bet, and Gimel, Daleth, Hey, and Wow, and Zayin. Tet, and Tet, and Yod, and Kaf, and Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, and Tzaddik, Kof, and Resh, and Sin, and Shin, and Tav, Havenu, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Alechem. Okay, let's try that one more time, okay? We have to go down an octave below her, but that's all right. Yes. Okay. Let's try it. Tet and Tet and Yod and Kaf and Lamed Mem Nun Zayin Pei and Tzaddik Kof and Resh and Sin and Shin and Tav Havenu Shalom 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 Alechem. Aleph, Bet, and Gimel, Daleth, Hey, and Wow, and Zayin. Tet and Yod and Kaf and Lamed Mem Nun Samech Ayin Pei and Tzaddik Kof and Resh and Sin and Shin and Tav Havenu Shalom 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 Alechem. Jeremiah, you're going to say something.
What did she say before the first Shalom?
Havenu.
Havenu.
Havenu. And depending on how that's pronounced, sometimes in the modern Jewish pronunciation, the cheth does not show up as guttural as what it is in the classical. And she could be saying, we live, or what I think it is the verb to be, and it means we are or we have peace. And then peace upon you. Okay? All right, so Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Wow, Zayin, Chet, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzaddik, Kof, Resh, Sin, Shin, Tau. All right, let's go through it again. List them all up here. Aleph, Beth, Gimel, Daleth, Hey, Wow, Zayin, Chet, Teth, Yod, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samech, Ayin, Pei, Tzaddik, Kof, Resh, Shin, Sin, Tau. And then, let's do this. Let's see. Okay. Let's just take several of these here. Okay, Scott, what letter is this?
That is Sade.
Okay, and James, what letter is this?
Sorry.
Okay, and Jeremiah, this one.
Raish.
Okay, and Roger? Kaf. Kaf. Remember, this is Kof. This is Kaf. All right, George?
Hey.
Right. Okay, and your name again? Jan. Okay, excuse me, Jan. Jan? All right, the student right behind him, what's your name again?
Mike.
Mike. Okay, Mike, what about that one?
Zion.
Okay, Zion. All right, Zion. All right, Tom.
Name.
All right, Greg.
Okay.
All right, and let's see,
Chad.
Chad, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, Chad. What's, for some reason I keep hitting the wrong button. There we go.
Oh boy.
Lamed.
Right, good. Lamed has the big tail on it there. Okay, and then your name again?
Kyle.
Kyle. Okay, Kyle and Chad I got right there with Greg. Okay, now if you switch places on me, I really get confused. Okay, Kyle. All right, Kyle. What's this one?
Scene.
All right, and then Franz. What is this one?
Tay.
Okay, Robin. We might as well let you share the pain. What's this one?
Kate.
All right, and then Kempis. What is this one?
Sade.
Kof. This one is Tzadi. This one is Kof. All right, and Dennis. What's this one? All right, and Scott.
That is Tao.
Okay, we got two Scotts. We'll have to get Scott Jackson in here on this one.
That would be
Ian. Okay, good. Good. Kenny, what's this one up here?
You.
All right. And Gus, what's this one? Okay, Noon. Okay, and John? Okay, and John, let's give you this one up here. All right, see, some of you, if you're close enough to the beginning, you can recite the song in your mind, right? Is that what's happening? All right. Jeff, let's see, oh yes, what's this one?
Dalit.
All right, and then Eric.
wow.
And it's also known as, okay, and is it James? Okay, James, let's go to up here. What's this one?
Olive.
All right. David, which one is this one?
Sade.
Okay, and let's see, the name again?
John.
John. So we got a John up here and a John back there. Okay, John, what's this one? Mame. Make certain you get that A sound in there, Mame. Okay, and your name?
Kelly.
Kelly. All right, Kelly, let's try this one with you.
The Tate.
Tate, right. Okay. So as we're going through these and learning them, try to get them visualized. There are flashcards available online. If you have online access, you can go online, you can take a look at these letters. They can bring them up as a quiz. You can mark what the name is, what the sound is, what the value is, what the representation is. We'll talk a bit about that here this morning. There's all kinds of things you can do. Just search for Hebrew alphabet on the browser. And I've also on my website have a couple of links there for the Hebrew alphabet for you for study. And there's also, some of you have gotten hold of the software called Hebrew Tutor. Hebrew Tutor also helps you to review the letter names and letters as well as build vocabulary. So let's sing this one more time, okay?
Aleph,
Beth and Gimel, Daleth, Hey and Wow and Zion. Cheth and Teth and Yod and Kaf and Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik, Ayin, Pei and Sade, Kof and Resh and Sin and Shin and Ta, Avenu, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. Aleph, Beth and Gimel, Daleth, Hey and Wow and Zion. Cheth and Teth and Yod and Kaf and Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik, Ayin, Pei and Sade, Kof, Resh and Sin and Shin and Tau, Havenu, Shalom, Shalom, Shalom Aleichem. All right, good. We'll leave that on there in case we want to come back to it later for a review at the end of class. Let's move this along here to... Yes?
Should we learn the numerical equivalent?
The numerical equivalents are not important for you to learn at this point in time. We'll mention it to you for your information, but it won't be necessary to learn those until the third semester. Third semester, that comes into play and is of value, but you'll also have kind of a little cheat sheet in third semester. You'll have a book by Scott on the Biblia Hebraica Stuttgartensis that on the back cover has the numerical system for you. So the numbers are not nearly, the number value is not nearly as significant or important as getting the letter down. You want to learn how to read the language, pronounce the language. Okay, what's the name of the first letter? Aleph. Everyone? Aleph. Remember how the Aleph looks. It has that slanted line through the middle, and it has those two smaller, one's kind of like a leg and one's kind of like an arm. All right, as it's standing there. It almost looks like an X. And that, in transliteration, when you put it in English letters, you use what looks like an apostrophe. Okay? Now, you must keep in mind it's the apostrophe that curves to the right and is open on the left, because the ayin reverses that for its symbol in transliteration. And so it's like the closing single quote for the Aleph. It's like the opening single quote for the ayin. And this letter is silent. It cannot be pronounced unless it has a vowel with it. And in some cases, it is absolutely silent. It's in a letter, or in a word rather. It's in a word and is absolutely silent. It's there, but is not pronounced at all. So Aleph is the first letter. What's its name again? Aleph. Aleph. All right. The second letter is called Beit. Everyone? Beit. All right. And notice that the Beit is written both with a dot in what we call its bosom and without a dot in its bosom, the red form up here. Are any of you colorblind? Anyone have color blindness? What colors are you missing? Red and green. So do you see the red up here at all, or do you see a gray? Right, okay, I've got to remember that and remedy that for you to help you out there. Okay, this is one of the problems in teaching Hebrew. Up at the college, Stephen Boyd has devised a total color method of learning Hebrew and all the vowels. And the problem is that if you have color, those who have color blindness, color deficiency, that creates a huge difficulty for them. And it's to the point now to where they say that there's something like 12% of all American males have some form of color blindness. And some of you may not even know you have a color blindness. There may be colors you just don't see that you're just not aware of. But those who have the dominant ones are the red-green, because it's so important for stoplights to understand what's stop and what's go. But that really threw him for a loop, because it meant, and the first time he used it in one of his college classes, it was almost 20% had problems distinguishing all the different colors that he had used. So we use these, but it doesn't always work for everyone. So my apologies for that. Now, when it has the dot in the bosom, it is the hard sound, the B, as in bat, all right? When it doesn't have the dot in the bosom, it's a V, like in that. And this is why in classical Hebrew, the wow was not pronounced as a V, because the V sound belongs to the unhardened, the softened form of bait. All right? The third letter name is what? Gimel. The Gimel is another letter that can have this dot in its bosom. We'll talk about it later. It's actually called a dagesh. Dagesh. Everyone? Dagesh. And the dagesh in the Gimel gives it the hard sound, the G as in got, but it has the same sound without it. Evidently, there is some softening there of some sort in the Hebrew language that was identified, but that's been totally lost, both in modern Hebrew, and we have no idea what it sounded like in ancient Hebrew, because it's not a meaning-distinguishing sound. Yes?
For the bait, without a dagesh,
Right.
is it still, do you still say the letter is bait, or is it
You
bait?
still say it is bait. It's a bait, yes. Correct. Good question. All right. The fourth letter is named Dalet. Dalet. Everyone? Dalet. That's a D sound as in a D in dot. And it's another letter that can take that dagesh in its bosom that hardens it, or without it softens it. And again, it's hard to distinguish this. Now, what happens in syllabification, when we make syllables, and we talk about syllables later on, we'll get into some of the distinguishing here and what are some of the potential sounds for the Daleth. But as far as we're concerned, for our English background and learning and pronunciation, the D fits both sounds perfectly well. The fifth letter is Hey. Note the Hey has that broken corner up there. Notice that its left leg does not come all the way to the ceiling. The right leg is complete. The left leg is only partial. It stands down there with a gap. That's significant because Chayth has an identical form except the gap is closed. So Chayth and Hey will sometimes be confusing. When you get my age and you wear trifocals, you have to look at a printed page very carefully, depending on the size of the print, to make certain that you read it correctly. This is the H, just like in the word hot. All right? Let's read these first 5 letters' names. All right? What are they? Aleph, Beit, Gimel, Dalet, Hey. All right? Let's go to the next one. The next one is Wow, transliterated with a W. And sometimes it's translated with a V for modern Hebrew pronunciation and modern Hebrew Hebraists. And so the sound is like in wow, or in modern Hebrew it has the sound of a V like in vat. Okay, notice that it is just one line, but it has a small curve at the top. The Zayin has one line, but notice it doesn't have the curved contiguous top. It has a little slanted piece that lays on top of the line, that is perched on top. That's the distinguishing factor. So that when you're talking about Matthew 5:18, any jot or tittle, any yod or horn, that little horn right there, that little overlap, is what distinguishes the Zayin from the wow. The Zayin has the sound of that first sound in its name, a Z sound, as in Zot. The Chayth is transliterated with a dot under the H, so that when you read the transliteration, you know whether it's a Hey or a Chayth. Okay, transliteration is merely a system, and there are many transliteration systems. That's why many books that are published today have a transliteration chart in the front of them to key the reader in to which transliteration system is being used. It's never been universalized. Now, part of that is Israel's fault, believe it or not. Israel has never standardized the Hebrew font system and its transliterated forms. That's why if you get a computer Hebrew font today, it is not interchangeable with other Hebrew fonts, except on rare occasion. I have a total of 12 different Hebrew fonts, and they follow 5 different systems of keyboarding. And that is because Israel has refused to set a standard. like the ASCII code that is utilized in American computers and in European computers. The ASCII system has not been tagged to the Hebrew in a way that Israel says, this is what we're going to use. And no other system either. So there's all kinds of systems. It'll remain that way, and there'll be confusion until Israel makes a decision, since they are the current speakers of Hebrew. Yes?
Why haven't they done that?
I have no idea why they haven't. I talked to an Israeli at the university, the Hebrew University in Jerusalem, 4 or 5 years ago, and asked him that question, and he said it's all politics. Now, what's involved in the politics, I have no idea. I have no idea. So there's a lot of things, we just have to wait for it. But meantime, it means that you and I, when we pick up a book published by Kregel, is going to have a different transliteration system than used by Baker, or perhaps used by Erdmans, or perhaps used by Zondervan, or McGraw-Hill, or Harper and Row, all those things. Each publisher chooses the one they want and uses that, tells the writers to use it. It doesn't have to fit with anyone else. And of course, publishers are glad to do that kind of thing and use that type of tactic, because the fact that that ensures that their material is going to be kept as their material. And if someone gets tied into that transliteration system, that's what they're going to prefer. If there's a choice of Hebrew grammars, they'll choose the one that uses the kind that they prefer or use. So all kinds of issues go on here. Okay? The Cheth. The next letter is Tate. The Tate, to distinguish it from the Tau, has a dot under the T here as well. The dot under it tells you this is representing Taith in transliterated form. It's the T as in taught. And then the 10th letter is Yod, the smallest letter of the Hebrew alphabet, with a Y sound as in the beginning of yes. Okay, let's pronounce these 5 letters. Okay? Wow, Zayin, Cheth, Tate, Yod. This letter is what? Kaf. Notice the Kaf again is a letter that can take the dot, the dagish, in its bosom or not. And so it can be a hard K, as in kit. But sometimes it's a softer K, usually at the end of a word. And at the end of the word, it, instead of having the hard closing sound, it almost sounds like cheth at the end. It's a softer form. So, if, for example, if I say mashlomech, that's how are you to a woman. It's not mashlomech, all right? It's mashlomech. It's softened a little bit. It's almost like the cheth. It's a K sound, but it's not real hard, and it's softened. That's the distinction in the pronunciation for it. Okay, the Kaf. The next one, Lamed. Remember the Lamed is the only one that goes above the line. It's like its first letter in its name. It's an L sound. You notice now that starting with Yod, the value, the numerical value, is in the tens. So Aleph through Taith is 1 through 9. Yod and following follow the tens up through 90. And then we'll get to 100. So this is the way they distinguish the number system. Say Kaf is worth 20. The Lamed is a value of 30. The Mem is a value of 40. The Mem is the third letter. The M as in Matt. What's the next letter? Noon. Of course, an N as in not. And then Samik. The Samik is transliterated with the S. That means then we have other S sounds that will have to have some form of markings added to the S to distinguish which letter there is that it represents in the Hebrew. The S as in Sat, let's read these 5 together. Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Samik. And then this letter is Ayin. Ayin, notice the transliterated form is the reverse apostrophe. The reverse apostrophe is how you transliterate the ayin. It is silent. It is silent. The next letter, Pei. Notice the Pei is a letter that can take the dagish in it. And so if it has the dagish, it's the hard P as in pat. But if it is without the dagish, it is pronounced like F or like PH. as in fat, or as in phone, if you want to spell it with a PH. This letter is Tzade. Tzade. Notice the dot under the S to give it the TS signification. The TS signification is the dot under the S. This is a sound like the TS in bats. It sounds like two consonants to our English ear, but it's only one in the Hebrew mind. That takes us through 90. 100 is Kof. Everyone? Kof. It is transliterated as a Q. The Q is important for you to remember for this because the K is used for Kaf. When you spell the word Quran, the Muslim holy book, it should never be spelled with a K because it's not the Arabic Kaf that is used, it's the Arabic Kof that is used. It's actually Q-U-R apostrophe A-N. And that's because the Arabic letters are very similar to those of Hebrew, and the vocabularies are very similar, and it's from a word that it's spelled with the equivalent of Kof, Resh, Aleph, Nun. And so the technical correct way to spell Quran is Q-U-R apostrophe A-N, not K-O-R-A-N. That's kind of like when we were in Bangladesh, the British always said that the capital city was Dhaka, and they spelled it D-A-C-C-A. There is no equivalent of C in the Bengali language. Out of its 142 characters, there is no C. And it is a form of a K, and there is no such thing as an A sound in Bengali, and so it should be Dhaka. In fact, Bengali has 4 Ds. It has, your tongue goes in different positions in your mouth. And the D for Dhaka is a D that goes along the alveolar ridge, that ridge right behind your teeth. Before you get to the soft palate, your tongue goes there. And then it's supposed to be aspirated as though they're an H together with it, so that if you have a candle in front of your face and you say Dhaka, the flame should waver. All right? So it's actually supposed to be spelled D-H-A-K-A and pronounced Dhaka. But the British say Dhaka. All right? That's what happened to my name. My name really isn't Barrick. Some British, tin-eared British customs official in the early American colonies in either Philadelphia or Annapolis, when my ancestors got off the ship from Germany and said, "Ich bin Johann Berg." They looked at him and said, "What?" You know, Johann Berg. And they looked at that and they couldn't figure out what to do with that guttural G at the end. And so they spelled our name B-A-R-I-C-H, B-A-R-I-C-K, B-A-R-R-A-C-K. They spelled it about 10 different ways, but not the way it's supposed to. My name is really Berg, B-E-R-G, meaning mountain. That's what happens with languages and mispronunciations. And I blame the British. I'm sorry if any of your British background. A little bit of bitterness there. All right, that colonial spirit, free colonial spirit, not colonizing spirit. So remember, the Kof is a Q. Kof is a Q. Don't make it a K. Don't have a tin ear like some of the British, all right? All right, let's go on. Resh. Okay, the R as in rot. And the R in Hebrew, we kind of give a very smooth pronunciation. We say rot, rat, rate. We say all those things. But remember, in other languages, it's rolled a little bit. And in Hebrew, the resh is rolled a little bit. Not normally so much at the beginning, but especially internally. And so as we go through and we pronounce various words, watch for that, because I will be talking to you about it and help you out with that. So let's read these 5 letters. Ayin, Pei, Tzadeh, Kof, Resh. Now, I might warn you something about the ayin. There are certain situations in which the ayin actually is pronounced almost like a G sound. When you talk about the 2 cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, Gomorrah in Hebrew begins with an ayin. And what it really is that the ayin in certain situations is a closing of the glottis in the throat. It's a narrowing of the throat. And it's almost like you're beginning to swallow, but it breaks off. Gomorrah, almost. And that's overdoing it. So when I say Gomorrah, that sound then is heard somewhat like a G. And the interesting thing is in Arabic has that separate letter called ghayin to give that sound. But Hebrew has both sounds with only one letter. And you have to learn which words then have that kind of sound. And Gomorrah is one of those. And you have a key to that by having the English spelled with a G, which is a correct anglicized form. All right, the next letters. Seen and sheen, or if you go from right to left here, sheen and seen. And the dot over the right horn is the sheen sound. And so it has kind of like a V over the S to show the SH. And the S sound that sounds exactly like Samic. Here to distinguish Samic from seen, you put the small acute accent mark over the S. And that tells you it's seen and not Samic. If the S has no mark over it, it's Samic. If it has the acute accent, it is seen. If it has the V over it, it's sheen. If it has the dot under it, it's sade. So the sibilants are the ones that provide the greatest difficulty of remembering what the transliterated forms are. The sibilants, the S sounds. Yes?
Does the scene have the TS sound?
No.
Okay.
No, it does not. No TS sound for seen. It's just like Samic, identical sound. All right? And then the last letter is tau, also called tav. The T as in taut. Notice it can take the dagesh. The hardened form of it is represented by T, and the soft form is the T with a line under it. It's a softer. When we say tate, we're saying that. It's not really a hard T. It's not tate. It's tate. And it's not really taith. You see, it's not a TH, as you would say, the or this. It's really a very separate sound there. It's in between the TH in this and the T sound. So it takes practice to get that. Now, in modern Hebrew, and this is one of the interesting things, it's humorous in a way, because many who teach modern Hebrew pronunciation for Hebrew ignore the modern Hebrew pronunciation of the tau. Because when the tau is found at the end of a word in Hebrew, it's pronounced as an S. So that you end up then with 5 S sounds in Hebrew. All right? And 3 of them are indistinguishable. For example, the Hebrew word for covenant is barit. All right? Barit. You'll hear some people say barith. That's an anglicized pronunciation that is incorrect Hebrew. All right? And the Hebrew, modern Hebrew pronunciation is bris. Bris. Okay? And you'll hear him talking about B'nai Bris. We're going to have the B'nai Bris today. Or he's been through Bris. That means he's been through the covenant, he's been circumcised, and all of that. And so keep in mind that, you know, it's fascinating to me that those who use modern Hebrew pronunciation are inconsistent. They won't use them all the way through. They only select primarily the wow to pick on. And so I very much insist on using the W myself. Then. All right, these 2 letters are seen and sheen and tau. All right. Now, we want to throw in 5 more forms. These are final letters. The kaf, when it comes at the end of a word, has the bottom base form drop to where it becomes vertical. You just turn it downward. All right? You have the same top and side, but instead of curving it back underneath, that drops and goes straight down. And notice it's below the line. Notice it's lower than the bottom of the other letter. Okay? That's the kaf, the ending. And we call that kaf sofit. Everyone? Kaf sofit. Sofit in Hebrew means final. means final. Okay, so kaf final, kaf sofit. The mem takes a separate form too. You saw that on Tuesday at the end of shalom. Instead of having the nice little horn up there at the upper left and a gap in the lower left corner, instead it's all closed around. But be careful what you do with the bottom right-hand corner, because the bottom right-hand corner must remain square. It must be a 90-degree angle, because if you round that off, then it is the identical form to the samic. All right, so samic and mem sofit can be confused. Then we have the noon. Its little bottom ledge drops out as well and goes below the line. Which letter can this be confused with? With the wow. The wow is shorter. The wow just comes down to the line. The noon sofit goes below the line. Okay? And in fact, we have a number of letters that can be confused, because we have the yod, we have the wow, we have the noon sofit, and we have the zayin. Notice that the yod is very short and elevated. The wow comes down to the line. The noon goes below the line. The zayin comes to the line but has a different top. So those are ones you have to watch carefully as you're reading them. And then we have the pei. The bottom ledge drops out on it as well in the pei sofit. And the final one, again, the bottom ledge dropping down. Notice that 4 of these, the bottom ledge drops out. It just folds down. It's as though it opens up when it's the last letter in a word. The tzade sofit. All right, let's say the names. Let's give the name of the black letter, which is like kaf, and the name of the next one, which is kaf sofit, all the way across there, starting at the right, okay? Kaf, kaf sofit. Mem, mem sofit. Noon, noon sofit. Pei, pei sofit. Tzade, tzade sofit. Okay? So that gives you then the remaining forms of the letters, the 5 final forms of the Hebrew letters. Now, in your grammar, you have a sheet that has boxes. It's at the end of chapter 1. There, you've got it right there, yes. It's the end of chapter 1. It's the end of the consonant chapter. And it's on 3a, I believe. Is that not? And you have the boxes there to where they're filled in for you, to where you can see how they are written. And what I will do in the next time we meet is hand out to you sheets that are blank boxes, the same 2 pages, but blank, so that you can practice filling these in. But what it is you have to think of Hebrew letters as being box letters, square letters. In fact, sometimes it's called square script. And that's because if you're writing the aleph, you begin up here and you come all the way down to the opposite corner. And then you start up here and come down this way, leaving gaps in here in the way it's written. The beith, you begin also up here and you come down and you go across and make certain that you have a ledge down here at the bottom, because you want to distinguish it from the kaf. You have to have that difference here that shows. Now, if I had a broader, wider pen up here, it would look better in those boxes because they're so big. But it at least gives you the idea of what we're talking about and how we write them. So you see the aleph and the beith. Notice that the gimel is all over on the right-hand side. You don't put it in the middle. You don't put it on the left. It's on the right-hand side, the gimel. All right? And notice, as we look at the letters, you have the daleth, and make certain you maintain the ledge up at the top, because when you write the resh, it's going to look like that, And you know, this wavy part here will vary. You may even write your Dalet that wavy part. You'll watch in the Hebrew letters and the different print forms, and you can, some of them are very square and straight, and some of them are a little bit curvy. But the Resh and Dalet are distinguished by means of that ledge there. By the way, any of you have color blindness to blue that I'm using? All right, good. Otherwise, some of you be looking up here and saying, what's he doing? All right? So the Dalet and Resh have to be distinguished. All right? Now, the Hey has all the way across the top, down the right-hand side, and then the left-hand side with a gap. Because if you don't put that gap in there, then you have the Cheth. And you use the exact same writing form to put in the Tau, but the Tau has a little tittle, a corn, at the very bottom left. It has a foot on it. So you distinguish the Cheth from the Tau by the foot that's on the Tau. So Cheth, Teth. The Teth, you begin and go down and across and up for the Teth. Some of you will get into the habit of writing it another way, which is perfectly acceptable. And that is just to do a circle like this. That form of Teth and this form of Teth are both acceptable. Notice that they are open in the top. They take up the whole box, and they have a curved element up at the upper right. That's very significant and very important to maintain for the Teth. The Yod, that's all it is. It's just the upper right-hand corner of the box. We've already had the Kaf. Let's go to the Lamed. The Lamed is the only one that begins above the box. And notice it goes across the top of the box to the right-hand corner, and then curves down to where it ends in the middle of the box. It's a very different form of letter from anything else. So when you're writing it, make certain that tail shows up above the line. And you'll see different forms of it. You'll find that there are forms of the Lamed that are written that have a huge tail going way up and coming way down, and some that are very small. But just make certain you go far enough above the line that it is visible and can be seen for the Lamed. Now, for the Mem is normally written this way to get it in. And there's different ways to write it. To me, that's the easiest way to write it. But as long as you have the little horn up here that needs to be there, as long as there's a gap in the lower left, and as long as it takes up the whole box, you're going to be safe with it. Let me show you an alternative form that I've seen used, and that is those who go like this. Now, to me, that looks sloppy. But I've seen some Hebrew professors that just plain prefer that. Why? I don't know. Part of that's what you learn and what you're taught, and this is what I was taught. The Nun looks like a wow, except it has the ledge at the bottom. And that then can be confused with the Gimel that has the angled foot at the bottom. So watch out for the wow, the Nun, the Gimel. I mean, that's when we put up these other forms up here. One of them that I left out was Gimel. And also the normal Nun. Those letters all look very much alike. They're all on the right-hand side of the box for square script. All right, Nun and Ayin. For the Ayin, you come down and curve across to the bottom left, and then start at the upper left, and come down. Okay? For the tzadi, begin up here, curve all the way around this way. Notice how it's very different. And then this part of it. So ayin and tzadi. Kof. Kof comes down below the box and starts up here at the top, comes down halfway on the right-hand side, and then curves across to the bottom left. So the vertical line, open up here, below the box, go all the way across, come down halfway, and then slide back over for the kof. All right, you've seen the sheen, the resh, so let's go to the seen and sheen. The seen and sheen just take up the whole box like a U, and then put in the slanted middle portion that goes to the left lower corner. Okay, and then all you have to do is add the dot up on the right or on the left, depending. This is with the dot on the left, it is seen. The dot on the right is sheen. Okay? And we've already done tau. So let's talk about the final forms, the sofit forms. Kaf sofit. Remember, the kaf is formed this way. And we're going to take this bottom part and we're going to just straighten it out and take it down. All right? So as we come up with the kaf, we're going to end up going this way, all the way down. It's not so important that you have a ledge up here, as long as you can see the difference. The resh doesn't come down this low. The daleth doesn't come down this low. So the upper right-hand corner is not that important to put a ledge on, but it is considered proper form to have that ledge there, and that is more rightly the kaf. But if you curve it off, it's not going to be a problem. It's distinguishable. It's distinguishable. Okay, besides the kaf, the next letter we have is mem, and the mem is this way. And on the mem, remember, you have to keep that lower right-hand corner as a right angle, and you must have a little tittle up here at the end, because otherwise you have a problem with distinguishing with this one. This is what? Samek. Samek has a little horn there, and it is rounded on the lower right. The mem sofit I've seen written this way. Notice this can be confused. You have to make certain you come down and have that. You can curve this other part, but you're going to have to learn to come down and then come across and up. Make certain this is a right angle here to distinguish it from samek. Otherwise it looks too much like the samek. The samek never has a right angle in the lower right. Never has a right angle in the lower right. All right, that's mem sofit. The noon sofit. All right. And what else did we have? Did we get all of them? Pei. We haven't done pei. In fact, we haven't done pei in any of them. The pei is a very interesting letter form. You can begin like this with a line about a third of the way down, come all the way up to the upper left-hand corner, go across and down and over. That's the pei. And to make the pei sofit, we take this part and pull it down so that when we look at it, we've just gone down out of the box for the pei sofit. And tzadi sofit, we also need to get in. The tzadi sofit is formed differently than the tzadi. In fact, I'll put them side by side here so you can see them. Let's begin with the regular tzadi. Remember, the regular tzadi begins like this and curves and comes down and then goes up. And the tzadi sofit is going to come like this. All right? Tzadi sofit. Make certain you go below the box. You have the same basic form as you have here, but because it's dropped out, it also changes slightly and becomes more like a Y. It's almost like a capital Y as you drop it down and out. Scott?
I didn't guess I understood the implication of the Sophie. What is it?
There's no difference in pronunciation. It's only the final letter of a word takes a different form. Okay? Yes, Scott?
On the pay, it looked like there might have been a horn or something on it, and I wasn't quite clear on that.
The horn is here. Right here.
Okay, it doesn't need to come back the other direction.
No, it doesn't. Although many will write it this way. Okay? You can do either one. They're both acceptable. But make certain it doesn't look like a cough. You have to have something here, and usually you have to have it either curved up here or you have to have this line here to show the pay. All right? Other questions about the writing of the letters and the forms? Yes, John.
The final Saudi in the book, it has written with a little horn on the
Right.
right. Does that matter?
Over here?
Yes.
No, it doesn't matter. You can do it or not. It's up to you. The horns in Hebrew, the scribes consider the horns as kind of a decoration in many cases. For example, even on the sheen, they love on the sheen to make certain that they have the horns in here, and they'll put those in like that. And so those are kind of decorative. The ones they're distinguishing, like in the Baith and the Kaf in the lower right-hand corner, the Samik and the Mem Sofit, the Zayin, etc., those you have to watch because they distinguish between the forms. The rest of the horns can be omitted or they may be used. It's really your personal preference. Which do you think looks better for you? What would you like yours to look like? Okay? All right? Some have asked, why don't we use the modern Hebrew script? Well, you'll never read the Bible in modern Hebrew script, and the purpose here is to learn how to read the Hebrew Bible. So we learn only the classical Hebrew script. Actually, it's not even classical Hebrew, as I told you. This is Aramaic script in reality. It was adopted after the return from the Babylonian exile. We had a couple of questions during the break that I thought I'd handle. One of them was, if we learn biblical Hebrew, what opportunities or doors does that open to learning other languages that are related to Hebrew? It opens tremendous doors. If you learn biblical Hebrew, you can do Aramaic in one semester. In fact, you can not only do Aramaic in one semester, you can learn the language, know its vocabulary, learn the differences in grammar, and translate all of Daniel 2:4 through 7:28, all of the sections in Ezra. You can do all of that in one semester work in a 2-hour class because there's so many similarities. So that that's a door that's wide open. And I really recommend that if you want to really be prepared in the biblical languages, that you don't neglect Aramaic. It is an important study, and we do offer it here. So Aramaic is opened up. If you want to learn Ugaritic, Ugaritic has an alphabet that's very similar. It has a few more extra letters. It's written in a cuneiform script, but it's a limited thing. You only have to learn something like 27 letters to be able to read Ugaritic, and it's basically the same language as Hebrew. A lot of it is identical vocabulary. So Ugaritic can be picked up in a semester as well. That gives you another language. You can pick up Phoenician. You can pick up Moabite, Ammonite, Edomite, all of those dialects. You just need to learn the old Hebrew script, the Paleo-Hebrew script, which we'll be talking about here in just a minute. And the vocabulary is very much the same, and the grammar is very much the same. So we could keep going on that. You could end up with, and if you wanted to learn Arabic, Arabic has a different script, has a slightly different grammar, but has a lot of similarities in both the grammar and in vocabulary. And if you know Hebrew, it makes Arabic even easier to pick up. So there's a lot of languages, about a dozen different languages that you have doors open to if you learn biblical Hebrew. And I would include in that modern Hebrew. Biblical Hebrew, modern Hebrew you can learn as well. Modern Hebrew will be written in the same script, have much of the same vocabulary. It'll be a different type of grammar, different pronunciation, but it is not that difficult to pick up and add to your repertoire of languages. So you can very quickly become very multilingual if you get your biblical Hebrew down and get it down well. You'll have no problems with these other languages and adding them in. And that also, you could add to it Syriac. Syriac is written in a script that looks a lot like Arabic, but it is basically Aramaic. So when you read the Syriac Peshitta, you're reading an Aramaic text. And it makes it very easy to add that one in. In fact, at the end of the semester of Aramaic, I introduce them into the Syriac alphabet and have them read some Syriac because it is so simple to pick up. One semester of Aramaic opens the door to Syriac, and you only need a couple of days in Syriac to, after you've had Aramaic to make the transition to the two. So it's very easy. Now, online, I'll add this to my website later this evening as a link, my personal website at home. There, I'll add it on to www.drbarrick.org on the students page under OT 503. But this is an online resource for studying Hebrew vocabulary. And it's basically the same as the Hebrew tutor software that if you buy independently will cost you about $40. And here it is online. I'll give you the URL. It's www.UAlberta, stands for the University of Alberta. UAlberta, UAlberta .ca, because it's a Canadian location, / and then that tilde, that kind of little curvy thing there, the tilde, and then EBENZVI. That's the tilde EBENZVI / Hebrew, spelled with a capital H, Hebrew, the underscore, Bible, spelled with a capital B, / and then Hebrew Bib Study, one word without any caps, HEBREWBIBSTUDY.html. All right, so let me go over that again. That's www.ualberta.ca / tilde EBENZVI / Hebrew underscore Bible / Hebrew Bib Study.html. I found this by searching for biblical Hebrew vocabulary. So if you lose it some way, just go to your browser, put in a +, double quote, biblical Hebrew vocabulary, end of double quote, and one of the sites on the first 10 will be this one from the University of Alberta. Another way to find it is just go to universityofalberta.ca and find it from there. Search around on their website. Who knows what else might even be there. Some of these universities have fantastic websites with lots of information from different departments, including Biblical Hebrew, and this is one of them. So I was glad to find it. Just to give you an idea of what's here, the Biblical Hebrew Vocabulary Tutor, and you go to it, and there's also a Biblical Greek Vocabulary Tutor listed there. It takes you to actually Earthlink, so someone's making this available on Earthlink, which makes me wonder if they have the permission to do it. You make your choices, and you start, and there's random, 0 out of 27. You've got it there. You've got the Shin Lamed Cheth. You choose which one it stands for here, and it's A, to stretch out, let go, or send, and continue, and you take Nakah to smite, and continue, Kum, the idea to rise or stand, and Nathan to give, and as you go through the vocabulary, it'll help you to test your vocabulary. Uses unpointed Hebrew, but as you go through the drill, it will help you in making certain that you understand it. You have that drill and practice option there as you're going through. All right? I'll stop right there. Allah means to go up. You just have all these options. The internet is so wonderful because it saves money. You can go there and find a wealth of material to help you study and find the one that fits your thinking and learning better. Next week I'm going to talk to you about learning methodology and about learning skills and about your own character as far as learning a language. What kind of learner are you? Are you a visual learner? Are you an oral learner, an audio learner, or are you a kinesthetic learner? And what does that mean to you? And how does that mean you must approach Hebrew to really get it? All right? Every one of you has a different type of learning curve as well as learning methodology that's kind of built into you and your character. And to understand that for yourself will really help you in the languages, because then you'll know what to focus on, what to emphasize, and what to do outside of class to help you keep up with those who are a different type of learner and seem to be leaving you behind in the dust. There's ways to catch up, believe it or not. The oldest Hebrew student I've had was 60 years old. And when he began studying Hebrew, he took Hebrew 503, just like you are, and he had a D-. I mean, he was 0.5% from failing the course. A D-. The second semester, 504, he came up to a C-. The third semester, he came all the way up to an A-. He had a very slow learning curve with a huge learning gap, but he just kept at it, and that curve steepened in his third semester to where he ended up near the top of the class. So don't be discouraged if you have a hard time. Just keep at it. Some things take longer to take root than others. And so allow the time for that to happen and just keep working on it. Don't allow yourself to become discouraged by it. All right, let's go back to where we were. I thought there was another question that was asked, but I've forgotten what it was. Does anyone else remember? Okay, we'll pick it up some other time. Okay, we're talking here about the Paleo-Hebrew script, or what is known also as the Proto-Sinaitic script. And that's called Proto-Sinaitic because in the early Sinai Peninsula history, dating back to as early as 1800 to 1600 BC. Now that places that 400 or 350 to 250 years prior to the exodus of Israel out of Egypt. The Egyptians had slaves who were Semitic slaves. Remember that Joseph went down into Egypt, and then later Jacob joined him and with the rest of his sons. And Israel spent 430 years in Egypt. This is that period of time. And some of the Hebrews served as slaves. They didn't all just live in the land of Goshen and herd sheep all the time they were there. Different pharaohs came and went, and by the time you get to the end of Joseph's life, we have no indication of a decline coming, but by the time you open the book of Exodus, you see that a huge change has taken place, because now the Hebrews are slaves. Where Joseph was the second most powerful man in the land, and his family were privileged people, now 400 years later, they are all slaves. How did that happen? When did it occur? Well, it occurred at some time, and the Hebrews served as slaves in the mines in the Sinai Peninsula. And in those mines and along the wadis nearby are written many Semitic inscriptions like this one. And this is written in the old Paleo pictographic script. And as you look at this, the initial letter down here at the lower left is a crook. It's like a shepherd's crook. And that is the word lamed. Lamed. It's the letter lamed. Lamed, lamed means to learn, to teach. Lamed is that which teaches. The crook, the shepherd's crook, teaches the sheep where to go, tells the sheep where to go, gives direction. And so the lamed is here, and that is the letter by itself that is a Hebrew preposition that means to or for. To or for. T-O or F-O-R. The preposition. And then up here at the top, we have an ox head. There's the horns and the head. And the ox is Aleph. Aleph. The ox. And later that is stylized to where it looks like the capital A, except it's laid on its side. This is not turned correctly up here. but it's looks like the capital A with a bar across showing on both sides, and it's tipped over to 90 degrees to the left, going counterclockwise. And so the Aleph there, and here you have the Lamed again, and then this little mark in here is a word break marker. When I was in seminary, I was taught that Hebrew was a continuous language, a language written continuous script with no breaks between the letters. But here, even slaves in 1800 to 1600 BC in the Sinai Peninsula are writing words divided by a word marker, a word dividing marker. And what I was taught in seminary now is absolutely falsified. It is not true. Hebrew script could be written in that way, and in some rare cases is, but it normally uses word markers for dividers, word dividers. And it's a tremendous study to do that. One of the fellows that went to UCLA and got his PhD over there, Fred Mabee, was one of my students here. And he went down to Talbot to teach, and he did his work at UCLA. One of his great studies was on word dividers. And he demonstrated and proved that the normal way of Hebrew writing in ancient times was to use word dividers. So it disproved this. And yet you get a brand new commentary on Leviticus and Numbers come out by Lloyd Bailey in the Smythe-Helwys series, in which he propagates the old-fashioned idea that it's continuous script. He's way out of step. He's about 50 years behind time, number one. And I think he must have been taught the same time I was, and he never changed with the new evidence that came along. He's still teaching what he was taught. And that's disproven now. Well, the Aleph and Lamed is the word El, which is either a preposition unto, or El, which means God. Let's go further. This circle down here depicts the eye. And the Hebrew word for eye is ayin. Ayin. So ayin means eye. And therefore this ayin, and here we have the lamed again, and down here we have a symbol we use for water, the wavy surface of water. The Hebrew word for water is mayim. Mayim. That's the maim. All right? So we have El Olam, which means everlasting God, God of eternity. The title used by Abraham at Beersheba in Genesis 21:33. Abraham planted a tamarisk tree at Beersheba, and there he called on the name of the Lord El Olam, the everlasting God. That's fascinating to see that title is used on the walls of the mines and wadis where you have Hebrew slaves before the time of the Exodus, and those slaves are writing Hebrew. That really puts the lie to the liberals who used to say, until they finally, the evidence became so overwhelming, they've silenced somewhat now, although they still try to make believe that the ancient Hebrews were basically a very ignorant and backward people, and that they certainly couldn't have written the Pentateuch because it's too sophisticated. So you're going to have to move it down to have it written somewhere between 850 and 350 BC, because ancient Hebrews of the time of Moses, even if they take a late date of the Exodus, just aren't smart enough. Well, here are Hebrew slaves, 400 years to 200 years before the Exodus, writing very clearly literate people. And that puts the lie to that argument. These are finds that we'll talk about at other times, but it helps you to see some of these things. And it tells you that there are names to these. Beit comes from the Hebrew word bayit, which means house. Beit Israel, the house of Israel. Beit Olam, the house of eternity. Beit David. Sometimes you hear the synagogues. Beth Joseph. Beth Jacob. The Beth is Beit. Beit. And that's a construct form. It means house of. And so it comes from Bayith. So the Beit represents a house. The Gimel represents a camel. Our English word for camel even sounds like it. Gimel. Daleth is a door. And you just keep going. on down through. And each of these words have the different meanings that they take. The sheen means either a tooth or a bow, a recurve bow. And all of these then have the sounds. They began with a pictograph, a picture. That picture was then changed as you go through it. Kof is actually one way of referring to the head that has to do with the forehead and the skull, and it has a shape there, and that line is supposed to represent the neck as you look at it. So, and Resh means beginning. Some tie it together with Rosh, meaning head, the word for head as a whole, rather than referring to the skull and the hard parts of the head. So there's all different types of things here to learn about the Hebrew. You don't have to learn all those things to know Hebrew, but it just helps to help you realize that the Hebrew language has a history, and its letter forms has a history, and where we get the names of them and where we get the sounds of them come from this type of background. The special letters in Hebrew, the gutturals, are what we call the throaty five. Guttural letters are very important to remember because there are special rules that govern them. The gutturals are Aleph, Hey, Cheth, Ayin, and Resh. Those are the gutturals. They all refuse doubling. You cannot put the dogish can be used not only to harden, but to double letters. And these five cannot be doubled. They refuse the doubling dogish. They prefer A-class vowels with them, and they prefer a compound schwa. We'll explain what those mean next week when we start into the vowels. But these three rules of the gutturals will always apply, and it explains why Hebrew words take certain forms and sounds. The silent letters are Aleph, Hey, Waw, Yod, and Ayin. I don't have Ayin up here because it's not showing up for some reason. My computer became colorblind. But the Hey can be silent in some situations. The Waw can be silent in some situations. The Yod can be silent in some situations. And Aleph and Ayin are silent. The vowel letters that represent vowels are the Hey, the Waw, and the Yod. The Hey represents an A. The Waw represents an O or U. And the Yod represents an I. So we'll be learning those as we go along. Labial letters, those that are pronounced using the lips. B, B. You have to pronounce the bath using your lips. That's a labial letter. Mem, pay. Those are the three labials. The reason it's important to remember that these are labials is that there are special rules that govern the labials when it comes to certain forms in Hebrew. So whenever the lips are involved in pronunciation, it's going to have an effect on other things within the word. So the labials are those letters pronounced with the lips, like bath, mem, and pay. Notice that noon doesn't involve the lips. Ayin, Aleph, Gimel, Daleth. The initial sound doesn't involve the lips. Bagad Kafath letters are those letters that take the dogish in the bosom. Bagad Kafath is a mnemonic device because that's each of the letters. Baith, B, Gimel, Ga, Daleth, D, Kaf, K, Pei, Th, A, T, the Tau. Okay, Bagad Kafath. Bagad Kafath letters are the 6 Hebrew letters that can take the hardening dogish. The Baith with the dot in the bosom or without. The Gimel with the dot in the bosom or without. The Daleth with the dot in the bosom or without. The Kaf with the dot in the bosom or without. The Pei with the dot in the bosom or without. And the Tau with the dot or the dogish in the bosom or without. And I'm going to stop here on this because I don't want you to get confused by the names of the different letters of the dogish at this point in time. So let's just stop at this one here and leave it right there. Take your exercise workbook, please. Your workbook, your first exercise is due on Tuesday. I want to go over this with you to make certain that you do it correctly and bring it to class with you. We will grade it in class together, but I want you to have it completed before you bring it in. It's in your workbook, and it says, first of all, explain the importance of studying biblical Hebrew. I want you to explain that. It's given in the introduction to your grammar. What is the origin of the term Semitic? That's also found in the introduction of your grammar. Briefly describe the 5 main branches of Semitic languages. All I'm asking for here is really just for you to give the 5 branch names. Don't worry about further description than that. In the past, sometimes I've taken time to describe each of those branches in greater detail. It's not really necessary to learning Hebrew, and so I've begun to leave that out. And all I want you to know is the 5 names. What are the 5 main branches of Semitic languages? You have that chart given to you in your introduction to the grammar. D, write the alphabet 5 times in the spaces provided below. Use the squares, as you learn, that you have in your grammar to show you how to write it. You have that there. It's on what page? Page 33, 23. Page 23, 23 and 24 actually, right? On pages 23 and 24, you have how to write them. Use that and start writing. And write through the alphabet in order. Put them in order, the 22 letters. That means then that seen and sheen are going to be put on the same line. Okay? So number 21 down there will have 2 letters on its line all the way across. So write the alphabet 5 times. Now I would suggest writing it in order all the way in column 1 first before you go to column 2. Don't write all the alepphs across and then all the baiths. Write the alphabet in order, aleph through tau, 5 times so that you get the order sealed in your mind as well. Notice to memorize the alphabet. The alphabet song will help you with that. Which letters sometimes have a dot called the dogish? Remember we talked about the Bagad Kafath letters. Which letters have a different form when they occur at the end of a word? Those are the Sophite forms, like the Kaf Sophite, the Nun Sophite, the Mem Sophite, the Pei Sophite, the Tzadit Sophite. And write the form, write the final form there for those letters. And H, which letters both regular and final extend either above or below the line of writing? So show which ones. Like, for example, we talked about Lamed. It's above the line. So that should be one of the letters listed there. And then you have an exercise I there to copy the letters carefully from the left side to the right side, observing carefully the differences between them, because these are the letters that are very close together. Like the first one, the Baith and the Kaf. Make certain you have that little tiny ledge at the lower right-hand corner of the Baith that distinguishes it from the Kaf. Make certain that the Gimel is that little foot that leans up against the support there, rather than forming a base to the support like in Nun. Make certain that the Daleth has its little ledge that hangs over on the upper right-hand corner, rather than being rounded off like the Resh. Make certain that the Kaf Sophite is lower, goes below the line, than the Daleth, which it looks almost exactly like. Watch those differences. And then in J, circle one letter and only one letter that is different from all the others. For example, number 1. Look at number 1 very, very carefully. All right? Look at it carefully. Greg, which letter would you circle and why?
Noon.
Okay, you'd circle the Nun. Why?
It doesn't take up, it's only, I think you wrote it, it would only take up half the box.
Okay, good. It doesn't take up the whole box. It takes up only the right-hand side of the box. What is another option? Because there's more than one right answer here. Scott, Jackson.
The last letter is that Kof,
Kaf.
Kof, and it doesn't have any 90-degree angles. It's all around it.
All right. You could use that. And Dennis, another one.
The top is in the final form.
Okay, the Tau does not have a final form. The Kaf, Mem, and Nun do. Jeremiah, another one. Anyone have another one? There's still another one left. Tom?
Seems like the name is broken, you know, and this might be a strained observation. Everything else seems to be one fluid motion to that one.
Okay, the way I would describe that one is it takes up all 4 sides of the box, where the others take up less than 4 sides and actually have 3 parts whereas it goes all the way around in 4 parts. But yes, so you see there's many different things. And that's why I asked you to describe the difference you're identifying. Okay, don't just circle the letter you think is different. Describe why you think it is different from the others. Because there is more than one right answer here to a number of these. And the purpose of the exercise is to get you thinking about it and observing. Your observation skills have to be honed very keenly.